Norm Macdonald died 2 days ago, and I got the news like everyone else, just absolutely stunned. Had no idea that Norm had not only been very ill, but been very ill for a very long time. None of us had any idea. And there's been this seismic reaction, which is appropriate, completely appropriate in the comedy world. And a lot's been said about Norm. And I just had this very strong feeling yesterday that I needed to talk to people about it and talk to people who, like me, experience Norm in the moment and really try and understand what it was about this man, this very improbable, unusual man. What made him so different? And I maintain that, we are accustomed, sadly, to losing funny, talented people all the time, and we grow accustomed to it. I think Norm's impact is only going to grow, and I think his significance in comedy is only going to expand over time because he was such an incredible talent, and trying to describe what made Norm different is so difficult. And I think so far I've read everything that's out there, and I'm hearing, to be fair, people were all taken by surprise. You're just hearing he was an original and there was no one like Norm. And I keep thinking, no one's getting to it. And I just wanted to take a stab today to try and understand what exactly it was about this guy that was so brilliantly unusual and is going to be so lasting, and his work is so important. So what I've done is I've asked two people who were sort of in the engine room with me when, over the years, Norm made his appearances on the show. I'm sitting with Andy Richter, who was right there.
Yes.
For me.
I was there.
You were there. You were there for it. So I wanted you here because you are a really astute observer of comedic style, and you were right there for all of these amazing appearances that Norm made on our show. And I also asked my longtime friend and longtime producer since really the beginning in 1993, Frank Smiley, to be here. Hey, Frank.
Hello.
And Frank produced every single one of Norm's segments. And so if anyone can help me understand what it was about this guy, I thought it would be Frank. So I got Frank Smiley here. I got Andy Richter here. And we're just going to talk about the Norm of it all here. And
well, Frank got to talk to him. He'd come on. I think a lot of what you're seeing, like commemorating Norm, was clips from our show. Yeah. Which we were blessed to have those. But for every one of those segments, Frank talked to him for an hour. You and I got him for 8 minutes or whatever.
Right.
So Frank probably has.
I thought. Yeah, I mean, first of all, I wanted to, before I even begin, I want to give a quick shout out to two people who, in my opinion, are the unsung heroes of the Norm Macdonald story. Two people that meant a lot to Norm and were really there for him in pivotal moments. One is Jim Downey, who, for my money, the best, pound for pound, the best comedy mind that I've ever encountered. Head writer at Saturday Night Live for many years, wrote for David Letterman, just an absolutely brilliant man. I worked for him at Saturday Night Live, and he was the one that really worked with Norm on Update, and for that just incredibly classic period of Weekend Update at Saturday Night Live. So a shout out to Jim Downey. and I'm thinking about him because Norm so loved him and admired him. And a shout out to a very special person, Lori Jo Hoekstra, who was Norm's, right hand partner in crime, and I did have a chance to speak to her since this all happened, and she's just such a lovely person, and I'm thinking of her because she just did so much for Norm over the years, and Norm was so lucky to have her. So I just wanted to address those two people who I think deserve our love and thoughts right now. Frank, do me a favor, because I recall the first time I encountered Norm was when he did stand-up on our late night show really early on. Do you remember how that happened?
Yes, I do. It was a month after we started. It was October of '93, and a guest dropped out, as it would happen back then.
Oh yeah, people were back in October of '93. We had been on the air a month. Believe it or not, it wasn't going well, ladies and gentlemen. No one thought we would last 28 minutes, let alone 28 years. But
they were dropping like flies.
Oh, but guests were dropping out at the last second constantly, and so someone dropped out. And what'd you do?
So I had worked with Norm a year earlier on the Dennis Miller Show, which didn't last very long. But he, was the funny. Anybody who had met him even for a minute knew he's the funniest guy in the world. Sorry, Conan. But, he is just a force.
Yeah. Dennis Miller you're talking about now. You're not making it clear. You said he worked on the Dennis Miller Show.
I thought it was understood. I thought it was understood.
Yeah, I thought so.
You were talking about Dennis Miller.
I like Dennis, but come on.
Dennis is funny, too.
Hang there.
Norm is unbelievable.
So you knew him as a writer.
And I knew he had just worked. He got a job as a writer on Saturday Night Live. So in a pinch, I went up there. I thought he would do it. And I knew, usually you work with the stand-up to hone a set. But with Norm, I didn't need to, I wasn't worried at all. I knew that afternoon he would come on the air and kill. And he did. He annihilated, and he did a bit about buying a dog, which was so funny. And that was the first time he did our show, and that was 28 years ago.
Right. And then he came on many times after that, and I've been thinking about what is it that made this guy so insanely different from everyone else? And I had this recollection that, Andy, you said something once, which was, and I always remembered it. It was after a Norm segment, and Norm had annihilated. He had done really well, as he always did. And you said to me, that guy doesn't care in a way that frightens me. And what you meant was he had this seeming indifference about whether the crowd liked it or not. He was going to do what he was going to do, and he was so ballsy that you found it kind of scary, and I knew exactly what you were talking about. It was always a high wire act, and one of the things I remember most about Norm is I would start laughing the minute he came out of the curtain. So I'd say, ladies and gentlemen, Norm Macdonald, and he would come out, and he had this look in his eye, this glint in his eye, and I was laughing before he said anything. And I will attest, and you will back me up on this. Both of you can back me up on this. I always wanted to be a host who helped the guest as much as I could.
It's called host.
Yeah. Well, but what I would do is, sometimes I'd be hearing something that wasn't that funny, but I learned, how to be a generous laugher for people if it would help.
Right.
I have always said to people, if you want to really see me laugh, and this is long before Norm passed, if you really want to see what it looks like when I am laughing, watch a Norm Macdonald segment, because I have my hands on my belly, which I think might be my tell. Like I put my hands on my stomach, and I would have my hands on my stomach sometimes just as Norm is coming out around the curtain, and I see that crazy look in his eye and that that insane grin that he had with those sort of like round apple cheeks.
He's like a mischievous kid.
He was a mischievous kid, and he was out to cause trouble. And he's coming around the bend, and his eye would catch me, and he'd always look a little surprised to see me, even though I had just introduced him.
Of course. And you'd just seen him 5 minutes before.
I had just seen him 5 minutes before. But, oh, my God. And I think there was this people get, cynical about show business, and rightfully they think, well, it's all set up or it's all been contrived. And sometimes it has been. But with that guy, when you look at any of these clips, you're watching us be just as stunned as the audience is, because we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. I think, one of the things to me, like Norm was so Canadian. Mm-hmm. Like he was like deeply, deeply polite, deeply, deeply concerned with the person that he's talking to. An audience, not so much, but a person that he's talking to, because even like the famous clip of like, that, and it's, and it's arguably one of the biggest things circulating now about Norm is when he was on with Courtney Thorne-Smith and was making fun of Carrot Top, but he wasn't making fun of Courtney Thorne-Smith.
Right.
He was having fun with her, but he still was kind of taking care of her in a way and having fun with you.
Yeah.
So I think he had this like sort of and I mean, I showed, my sister texted me the day after he died, and she said, do you remember I was at the show, I was maybe 18 years old, and I was in your office. You weren't there. You were rehearsing or meeting or something. And Norm Macdonald walked in, and I introduced myself, and he sat down and talked to me for an hour and asked me questions about myself and and made me laugh a lot. And she said, nobody in your business has done that before or since.
Right.
And that was one aspect of Norm, was like an incredibly kind, considerate listener. But then there's also this stripe of Norm that is a destroyer. And it's not a coincidence that when we talk about him, he annihilated, he killed, he destroyed.
Yeah.
And what Norm was drawn to touch points that you're not supposed to touch.
Yep.
And Norm would not only touch them, he would dry hump them.
Yeah.
He would just and so in a talk show context, you have this guy for whom nothing is sacred.
Yeah.
And in fact, there's a little bit like you don't sense aggression from him except when you get to like hypocrisy. Mm-hmm. Or something that's, phoniness.
Yeah.
And he was also too not afraid publicly or in private or something to let people that he felt were not funny, who were being paid to be funny, let them know he didn't think they were funny.
Yeah.
And that's because he had so much genius.
He took it. He took it comedy very seriously. Yeah. And one of the things that speaks to, I was having a conversation with Jim Downey and in the wake of Norm's death, and Jim Downey, and I was trying to get to what is it that made Norm so different, and he reminded me, he said, on Weekend Update we would do there's a dress rehearsal, which I know because I worked at Saturday Night Live. There's a dress rehearsal, and he said the best way to test a joke on Weekend Update is at dress rehearsal. If it does well at dress rehearsal, it will do well on air. If it doesn't do well at dress rehearsal, it will bomb on air. It's the best way to test it. And he said that Norm would do a joke at dress rehearsal that they both loved, and it would get nothing. And when Weekend Update was over, Jim would say, yeah, it's too bad that joke didn't do well. And Norm would say, like, yeah, I know, but we got to do it. So he would do jokes that he knew were going to get nothing.
Yeah.
If he thought the joke was worthwhile, he didn't give a shit. Mm-hmm. Now, that is very uncommon. That is very...
Well, he never pandered.
He didn't pander at all. And that takes... that's what made me think about the line you said so many years ago, Andy. Like, it almost terrifies me, his fearlessness, because it was the thing he did so many times on our show, which I thought was absolutely outrageous, was he would launch into these long stories that you quickly realized were farmers' daughter jokes.
Or shaggy dog.
Shaggy dog stories.
Just absolute horseshit.
Absolute horseshit stories. And he would go on and on and on. And I'm so happy that the moth joke has been getting circulated so much from our Tonight Show, because it is completely outrageous what he's doing. It is, it's the Tonight Show, and he is telling this very long story, and he's taking all the time in the world. And I love it just because even though I was there, I'm delighted every time I see it.
Yeah.
I every time I see it, I'm delighted with it, because what he's doing breaks every rule. Brevity is the soul of wit. That is the rule.
Yep.
Keep it, and man, he completely, like Picasso, blew up the form. He goes and he tells this joke forever, and then finally gets to this punchline, and you can see that everyone's delighted, but he has broken every rule in the book. And I was talking to Lori Joe, and I asked her if it's okay if I related this, and she said it was okay. But she said that not too long ago, someone asked Norm about the moth story that he told on our Tonight Show, and that she said, the guy wanted to know what made you have the nerve to do that, and that he said that, it was that goddamn Frank Smiley. He said, I was only supposed to do one segment, and then suddenly in the commercial break, Frank came over and said, you're doing another one, because whenever I had Norm, I was greedy. I wanted more Norm. I always wanted more Norm. And so he didn't know that we were going to ask him to do a second segment. He had nothing planned. Mm-hmm. Absolutely nothing planned. And so as recently as not that long ago, I think this was a couple of months ago, he was telling somebody, damn it, that was Frank Smiley. Hey, get back out there. Conan wants more.
So he heard that joke from Colin Quinn.
Uh-huh.
And he did the segment. And it was he had 7 minutes prepared.
Yeah.
And so he basically, you said, and then he's done. You say, we'll be right back with more Norm. And he goes, I've got nothing to say.
Yeah.
So then he remembered the Colin joke, and it was a 20-second joke. So he asked you, how long is the segment?
Uh-huh.
And he was hoping you'd say 20 seconds.
Right.
But you said 7 minutes.
Yep.
So it became a 7-minute joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's doing that. This has to be understood. He's doing this on the fly.
Yep.
So his way to slow it down that he came up with on the fly is he invents...
It's a Chekhov play.
It's a Chekhov play.
With Russian names.
Let's do it. I remember thinking, well, what good is this?
Yeah.
But then, of course,
he killed.
He was killed. He killed, and he was hilarious. But not what you don't want to see your comedian lose his house. On a basketball game in the makeup room seconds before you do the show. But that was also Norm. Many sides, very complex. And I'm going to wrap this up, but. Norm, we are thinking of you, and we will see you on the next astral plane, where you will probably waste my time with a 45-minute pointless knock-knock joke.
And he'll be in trouble with the management.
And you'll be in trouble with God. God will be mad at you. God's got a... What's up God's ass all of a sudden? And what's with his kid?
I get it. You're God. Okay. What are you, God? All right. You're God.
All right. I guess we'll play it that way then, huh? Well, anyway, I didn't know they let hobos in heaven. All right. Thank you for listening.